Right? So Manchester City think they've got this wrapped up. They've been leading the race since March. They've already put in a bid. Their fans are confident. And Fabrizio Romano is posting updates about a new offer being prepared. On paper, City look like they're about to win. But here's the thing. Forest just said no to their money. And Manchester United have not gone anywhere. And I think that matters more than people are giving it credit for, because this Elliot Anderson saga is not over. Not even close. And when you actually look at what's happening behind the scenes, not just the headlines, but the actual detail, this summer is shaping up to be the most important transfer window United have had in years. Multiple massive targets, a genuine rebuild, real money being spent, and a midfield that could look completely different by August. I'm Bella. This is Bella MUFC Analysis. And if you're a United fan trying to make sense of everything that's happening right now, this is the video you need to watch. And if you haven't subscribed yet, genuinely, what are you waiting for? Hit that button, because this window is going to be wild and I'll be covering every single move. Right, let's get into it. So Elliot Anderson, let's start here, because this is the big one, and I think a lot of United fans are actually underselling our position in this race. The narrative that's been set for weeks is that City are ahead, Anderson prefers City, it's basically done, just waiting on the money. And if you only look at the surface level, yeah, that narrative makes sense. City have been in for him longest. They lead the race. But dig a little deeper, and there's actually a really interesting situation developing here. Nottingham Forest have rejected City's bid, not rejected it and come back with a counter. Rejected it, walked away from it. Told City that money is not enough. Forest want north of £100 million for this player, and they've made no secret of comparing his value to what Arsenal paid for Declan Rice, which was £105 million. That's the number in Forest's head. That's what they're building towards. And City, right now, are believed to be around 20 million short of that. Now, £20 million sounds like nothing when you're talking about Manchester City. And you'd be right to say that. City will come back. Romano has already confirmed a new bid is being prepared. And City are clearly confident they get this done. But here's what I keep coming back to. Forest are not moving. And the longer this drags on, the longer City fail to meet that valuation, the more alive United's interest stays. Because The Guardian has reported and The Times has confirmed that United's executives genuinely believe they can beat City to this, not just hope, believe. And there's a distinction there that I think is worth paying attention to. So what does United actually bring to this race? First, wages. United are reportedly willing to offer Anderson around £200,000 a week. That's a significant package. That's a statement of intent from a club that for years has been criticised for not matching their ambitions with their wallet. Second, Champions League football. United are back in the Champions League next season. That matters. That's elite European football on the table. And for a 23-year-old England international who wants to prove himself at the highest level, that has to be attractive. And third, this is the one people underestimate. United are waiting deliberately, quietly. They've stayed in conversations with Forest. They haven't made a big dramatic move. They're positioning themselves for the moment City blink, or the moment Forest lose patience with the gap. And if that moment comes, United want to be ready to act fast. Now, do I think United win this race? Honestly, I think it's more complicated than a simple yes or no. City are still in pole position. Romano's update about a new bid coming suggests City haven't given up and are willing to get close to Forest's number. But I also think the story is genuinely not finished. And the idea that United are just sitting on the sidelines watching, that's not what the reporting suggests at all. What I find most fascinating about the Anderson situation is the football logic behind why United want him so badly. This isn't just Ineos chasing a headline signing. Anderson is specifically being targeted as the replacement for Casemiro. And when you think about that, when you actually think about what United have been missing in that position, it starts to make complete sense. Casemiro at his best was the engine, the guy who won the ball, drove forward, covered ground, connected the midfield. His decline last season was painful to watch because you could see exactly what was missing when he wasn't right. And United needs someone who brings those qualities again. Not a clone of Casemiro, but someone who can do what that position demands. Anderson, at 23, already has that profile. High energy, intelligent in and out of possession, can play in a double pivot or as a number 8 relentless work rate. He is exactly the kind of player Carrick needs. And look, Ederson is already done. That deal is confirmed. All documents signed. Around 39 million for the Atalanta midfielder. Good signing, smart signing. But Ederson is more of the Ugarte profile. Defensive, physical, combative. Anderson is something different, more technical, more progressive. They'd actually complement each other beautifully. And I genuinely believe that's the double pivot Michael Carrick has in his head when he looks at this summer. But here's where the summer gets really interesting. Because while everyone is focused on Anderson, United have quietly opened another front. And this one, I think, might actually be the smartest piece of business they do this whole window. Matteas Fernandez, 21 years old, Portuguese, just completed a really impressive season for West Ham despite them getting relegated. And now, West Ham in the Championship, player wanting Premier League football, multiple clubs circling. Fabrizio Romano confirmed yesterday that United made direct contact with Fernandez's agents in the last 48 hours. Not background interest, direct contact, conversations about transfer fee and salary. That's United being serious. Romano was clear. He said, and I'm paraphrasing because I don't want to misquote, that United started these conversations. The price has been set at 85 million and Fernandez will leave West Ham this summer. It's not a question of if he goes, it's a question of where. And United want him to come to Old Trafford now. 85 million sounds expensive for a 21-year-old who played the majority of his career in a relegated West Ham side. But when you actually look at the market, when you look at what midfielders are going for right now, 85 million for a player of his profile, age and Premier League experience is actually reasonable. Potentially even good value. Think about what you're getting, a young, technically excellent midfielder who can play multiple roles across the middle. He arrived at West Ham from Southampton, where he'd already shown real quality, and then performed consistently even as the team around him was falling apart. That's not nothing. That's actually a really good indicator of a player who is mentally strong and technically reliable. And critically, Fernandez hasn't been picked for Portugal's World Cup squad, which means he'll be available from day one of pre-season. No waiting for him to come back in July. He's already free. And BBC journalist Simon Stone, who is not someone who throws transfer predictions around lightly, has gone on record saying he expects United to sign Fernandez this summer. That's a significant statement from someone at that level of journalism. But here's where I want to push back slightly, because I don't think the Fernandez situation is completely straightforward for United. West Ham have set the price at 85 million. United are in contact with the player's side, but there are other clubs involved. Real Madrid have been linked. PSG have been confirmed as interested, and there are other English clubs keeping tabs. United are not walking into an empty room here. So the question becomes, can United move quickly enough? Can they convince Fernandez that Old Trafford is the right destination before someone else swoops in? And honestly, I think they can. Champions League football, a project that's clearly building under Carrick, a midfield that needs exactly his profile, and the financial backing of Ineos, who, whatever criticisms you want to level at them, are clearly spending this summer. Which actually brings me to the bigger picture question that I keep asking myself when I look at all of this together. What exactly is United's midfield going to look like by September? Because right now we have Ederson confirmed, we have strong pursuit of Anderson, we have direct contact for Fernandez. And then there's another name that's been floating around, Sandro Tonali, who I need to address because the reporting has been all over the place. Tonali, 26, Italy international. Newcastle United, one of the best midfielders in the Premier League since he made his comeback from the betting ban. Genuinely world class when he's right. And United have had him on their list. But here's where I have to be honest with you, because I think some outlets have oversold United's prospects here. The most recent credible reporting suggests that Tonali is actually no longer a realistic target for United this summer. Not because United don't want him, they do, but because Newcastle are demanding around £100 million for a player who is contracted until 2029, and United simply can't justify that price on top of everything else they're spending. Let me put the numbers on the table. Ederson, roughly 40 million. Fernandez, if they get him, 85 million. Anderson, if they somehow pull off the hijack, over 100 million. That's already 225 million on midfield alone. Adding Tonali at 100 million on top of that is completely unrealistic. Newcastle also have no financial pressure to sell. They've already banked the Anthony Gordon money. They can hold firm. And United, despite their spending this summer, are not going to blow £300 million on midfield. So Tonali, I'd file that under admired but unlikely. And I think United's actual plan is the Anderson and Fernandez double. That's the rebuild. That's what Carrick wants. Now, while all of this midfield drama is unfolding, there are a couple of other stories from today that I want to touch on because they actually tell you something important about where this club is going. Alex Scott, 22 years old, Bournemouth, currently with England at the World Cup in America. United have been linked, Chelsea are interested, and today The Athletic, which is not a source that gets things wrong very often, confirmed that United could sign Scott for £60 million this summer. 60 million for a player who helped Bournemouth to their best ever Premier League finish, a player who has been absolutely outstanding this season, who is now featuring for England at a World Cup, and who United could probably get for 60 million when Bournemouth's own release clause figure was being discussed at 75. That's actually really interesting. The reason the price is lower for United is almost certainly connected to the fact that his stepsister, Maya Letizia, already captains United's women's team. That family connection is real. Scott himself has spoken about how close they are, how they speak most days, how much she means to his career. And the idea of both of them being at the same club is something that I genuinely think could be a genuine pull for Scott rather than just a nice story. The football logic also works. United need creativity on the left side. Scott is a natural 10 who can play wide, who creates chances, who carries the ball. And at 22, with the trajectory he's on, 60 million now could look like a complete bargain in 3 years, especially with him about to get a World Cup window. If he has a good tournament, that price goes up fast. There's also a name that caught my eye in the reporting today that I don't want to gloss over. Morgan Rogers from Aston Villa. United have apparently identified him as their long-term replacement for Bruno Fernandez. And look, I'll be honest, this one is a bit further down the line. The sourcing is from the Manchester Evening News rather than a Tier 1 journalist, so I'd treat it more as United are monitoring, rather than United are about to bid. But the fact that they're even thinking about Bruno's replacement tells you something about how seriously this club is now planning for the future under Carrick. Bruno's contract situation has been up in the air. He'll be 31 next season. And if United are already identifying who could eventually take his role, that's a sign of proper long-term recruitment planning, which frankly this club hasn't done well enough for years. And then there's one more piece of business today that is genuinely low-key but actually makes a lot of sense when you think about it. Karl Darlow, free agent, had a really solid season at Leeds, made 22 Premier League appearances, dislodged Lucas Perry as their number one. United are apparently in discussions about bringing him in as backup to Senna Lammens. And you know what? I actually like this. Free agent, proven Premier League experience. Knows what it takes to fight for a shirt. If Lammens gets injured or dips in form, you want a real option behind him. Not a kid on loan who's never played top-level football. Darlow is not a headline signing, but it's exactly the kind of sensible, low-cost depth addition that a well-run club makes. So when you step back and look at everything United are doing this summer, and I mean everything together, what does it tell you? It tells me that Ineos finally understand the assignment. And I don't say that lightly, because for the last couple of years, there have been legitimate questions about whether Ineos were ever going to back this rebuild properly. There were the questions about Amorim's budget, there were the cheap signings, there were the frustrating half measures. And a lot of United fans, including me, I'll be honest, started to wonder whether the ambition matched the reality. But this summer looks different. You're looking at a confirmed signing in Ederson, active pursuit of a £100 million midfielder in Anderson, direct contact opened for Fernandez at 85 million. A concrete price tag on Alex Scott and a manager, Michael Carrick, who has clearly been given a proper transfer budget and the backing to use it. That's not a club tinkering around the edges. That's a club doing a proper rebuild. And the midfield specifically, because I keep coming back to this, the midfield has been the problem for 2 years. Everyone knows it. The Casemiro decline. The Ugarte experiment that never really worked. The lack of a proper creative fulcrum. The lack of legs and energy in the centre of the pitch. United have been a team that has played around their midfield problem rather than solving it. This summer, they're solving it. If Anderson comes in, and I'm keeping that as an if because City are still very much in this, you get a 23-year-old box-to-box midfielder who is probably at the peak of his development curve. If Fernandez comes in, and the Romano update makes that feel very close, you get a 21-year-old who has already proven himself in the Premier League and has his best years ahead of him. Put those two alongside Ederson, and suddenly you have a midfield that has energy, physicality, creativity, and youth. That is a completely different team to the one that limped through last season. And I think that's what excites me most about this window, not just the individual signings, but what they say about where United are going. Because for the first time in a while, and I genuinely mean this, it feels like there's a plan, a real one, not just reacting to opportunities, actually building something. The Anderson battle is the big test. If United can somehow pull off that hijack, if City slip up and United pounce, that would be a massive statement, not just a football statement. A statement about what this club under Carrick and Ineos is capable of. And if they don't get Anderson, then Fernandez becomes even more important. And honestly, I've been thinking about this. Maybe Fernandez is the better signing anyway. Anderson would cost north of 100 million. Fernandez is 85. Anderson will have his price inflated further by the World Cup. Fernandez is already not in the tournament. Anderson preferred City for a while. Fernandez, from everything being reported, is keen on United. Sometimes the second choice ends up being the right choice. So where does that leave us? United are in the most significant transfer window since the David Gill era. The midfield is being rebuilt from the ground up. The finances are being used properly. The targets are elite. And the man leading it all, Michael Carrick, finally has the backing to actually do the job. City might still win the Anderson race, but United have options, multiple elite options, and a plan that doesn't collapse if one deal falls through. The question I want to leave you with, because I genuinely want to know what you think, is this. If United can only land one of Anderson or Fernandez this summer, which one do you want? The one who might not have even wanted to come in the first place, but is the bigger name? Or the one who is younger, cheaper, already keen, and could be the best midfielder in the league in 2 years' time? Let me know in the comments. I'll be reading every single one. United's summer is just getting started, and I'm here for all of it.